If you're an average player, you want to be left alone, right? Because you want to be able to slide by. If you're a good player, you want to be coached. If you're a great player, you want the coach to tell you the truth every day. Did I hustle on that play? Did I make the right read? Did I play the guy with the right leverage? You want to know every play. Because you know why? They want to be perfect. Everybody here makes a choice to do one of those three things.
Welcome to the GOAT Consulting Podcast, a podcast dedicated to people striving to be a GOAT, the greatest of all time, serving it up in a way that you can get it in all stages of life.
Hey, I'm Colby Jubenville, and welcome to another episode of the GOAT Consulting Podcast right here in Nashville, Tennessee, in studio at VC Productions.
Nailed it.
I nailed it. At the table today, as always, my good friend Tyler Burnett. Tyler is the founder, the CEO, and the guy that came up with the GOAT, the greatest of all time. Tyler, we're so glad that you took the Sprinter, came into the big city today from the bubble of Murfreesboro. Proud of that. Well, you know, start at 10 versus 6 and you get there, right?
That's right.
John Byers is here. We call him the LinkedIn Whisperer. He's the calming force to our show. We're so excited that you came in today. You got a shirt that says "Never Settle." That's
wore this for our guests.
Sort of the theme for today. Never
Yes.
settle. We got a great guest for you today. Before we jump into that, let's just go ahead and set the stage. We are the GOAT Consulting Podcast. We serve it up in a way you can get it, just like Waffle House. We serve it up in a way that you can get it. In our 20s, they teach us to get in the game. In our 30s, they teach us to move up in the game. In our 40s, you try to stay in the game because people like Tyler in the 30s are so damn good. In our 50s, what the research says, we finally ask ourselves, what is it that you really want? And we hope you ask yourself as you go through and listen to the guest today and the topic today. We're a car ride to work and a car ride home. We pack it up so that you can get it, unpack it where you live and work in business and life and relationships. But it's about the GOAT, the greatest of all time. In sports, it's easy to see. In sports, it's the people like Sally. They're recognized for their greatness. But in business, it's people that compete on unique perspective, education, and experience. What they do gives them energy, and it gives other people energy, creating new levels of challenge and new levels of opportunity. Today, we welcome to the show Sally McRae. Sally is a Nike endorsed professional ultra-marathon runner, recently winning the toughest foot race on the planet, Badwater 135. She even pronounces her own last name in her own way, and she's a mom. And John is continuing his fetish with extreme sports.
Yes.
By bringing in guests like Sally. And Sally, we're glad you're here with us, and we appreciate you taking time out of your crazy day that is managed by your husband to be here with us at the table. So thank you. Thank you for being here.
You've already pissed her off probably by saying that her husband manages her day. I think
that's what she said. I didn't say that. She said, and I quote, "He manages my crazy life." And you said, "I'm assuming that's your husband," and you shouldn't have said that. So there.
Sally has been laughing the whole time. And
well, even during the introduction.
I know, it's fantastic.
Well, when you win the toughest foot race on planet Earth called Badwater 135, I mean.
Everything else in life is easy.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Sally,
you taking it from here. I'm going to get some coffee.
Sally, we're so glad to have you. Thank you for joining.
Oh my goodness. You guys have just been entertaining me for the first 5 minutes here. It's been fantastic. Thank you for helping me wake up this morning. I got my cup of coffee actually.
Well, you're a couple hours behind us. And
I am.
Have you logged any miles yet today?
You know, I was going to head out, but I decided to make some breakfast for the fam and do emails, knowing that I was going to chat with you guys. I was like, do I want to sit in my sweat and podcast? I'll do it after. So usually I do some morning miles, but my daughter, I have a daughter in high school, and a couple days a week she goes to school. She has a class starts at 7 a.m. So on those mornings, just because I know she's on her way out of the house, it's kind of crazy how our seasons shift, even our training shifts based on our children, right? You know, on those mornings, I like to just be home and sit and chat with her, and I make her a big breakfast, and savor any time that I can get with her. So
that's very cool.
No morning miles.
And you are joining us from Huntington Beach. What is the weather like there today?
You know what? The weather is always sunny here in Surf City, USA.
It's kind of like here in Nashville. We're working on 19 inches of snow in the last 2 weeks here.
Yeah, it's nothing like Nashville.
It's the snowiest Nashville has ever had to start a year ever.
Yeah, that's crazy.
I'm ready for it to go away.
The place has been crazy.
But the Titans are playing this weekend, so tighten up.
I heard that. So, and I see, Sally, I see people running, and I was telling somebody this yesterday. I see people running out, and it's icy, and I enjoy running in extreme weathers. But when there's ice on the road, like that just doesn't connect for me. It terrifies me, actually.
Yeah, same. I'm not a big ice fan. I'm very grateful for the access to the treadmill that I have. So usually when it's icy, there's not a lot of quality running that gets in because I don't want to rip a hamstring.
What kind of treadmill do you have, Sally?
Yeah, I have the
Hey, that's an important question. I'm in the treadmill market right now.
Yeah, because I mean, Sally just has, has a new sponsorship opportunity.
Why would you listen to somebody like me who's ran like a half a mile in the last 3 years?
This segment brought to you by
Nordic Track.
Okay,
there you go.
But I am a trainer for them. I am one of their iFit trainers, so that's how I got that treadmill.
Awesome,
very cool.
Awesome.
And if you had prepped for the show, Tyler, you would have known that.
Well, Sally, we are, like I said, thrilled. We're going to have a good time over the next few minutes together. We need to at least just acknowledge our good partners, Dev Digital.
Yeah, I was going to start there, but yes, absolutely.
They are friends of our show. They run everything in Nashville from a digital perspective. If you want to convert anything from a business to a digital platform, check out our friends at Dev Digital.
Well, I mean, the first thing I think about is Dev Digital never settles either.
Yeah,
you know,
that's true.
They don't. What they do is top of the line, no matter what, and they give the world energy.
Yes,
just like Sally, just like you and Tyler.
So thanks to our friends at Dev and Sally. I do wear a unique shirt to almost every episode. And this one's to honor you, which we'll get into this, but it says never settle, which just reminds me of your story between 2018 and 2020. So we'll unpack that. But before we do, would love for you to kind of catch us up on today. Like, how did you get to today in life, family, sport, business, everything? Fill in the blank, defining moments along the way. Capture that in a few minutes. Where would you take us to lead us here?
Yeah, I mean, I always attribute anything good in my life because of the grace of God. I mean, it's been a really long journey, and one that I'll tell you, from the time I was a teenager, probably that was a really pivotal point in my life for me. But from the time I was a teenager to now, I mean, I just could have never imagined in my mind that I would be where I am today, you know, being a professional athlete, a mom of 2 kids, running my own business. I mean, doing a lot of things that I could only dream about in my mind. But the really quick condensed version of that is just, you know, I grew up in a big family in SoCal and always had a dream of being a professional athlete. And through a series of just...
But it wasn't running.
No, it wasn't running. I was a soccer player. Yeah, I grew up in the years of you know, Brandy Chastain ripping her soccer jersey off and showing those amazing abs in the World Cup, and I just thought women's soccer is where it is at. Like, I want to be on TV doing that. And I really loved soccer, and I looked up to my brother, who's 5 years older than me, and he was an amazing player, and I wanted to be like him. And I even cut my hair really short like him and wore boys' clothes all the time because I thought if I could just be like him, then I could make it really far. Yeah. But you know, growing up as a kid, I didn't have maybe the I don't know. I don't even know what would be a common growing up family as far as like the community that I grew up in.
We don't like the word normal here, so just carry on. You'll fit right in. I don't even know
what normal means anymore.
That's right.
But yeah, you know, I grew up in kind of a rough home, and my mom got sick really young. We didn't have health insurance growing up, so we never went to the doctor. So she ended up dying when she was 43 and I was 17. And really that was a really big turning point in my life. So at that time I was working towards these dreams and making really good leaps and bounds, and had colleges coming after me and sending me letters. And, you know, I was, you know, on my way. And at that time, even at 17, I really learned what it was to work hard. And, you know, in one part, it was because, you know, we were always told growing up, you know, we don't have a lot of money. I was very aware of finances in our home. I was always aware of what I didn't have in comparison to other people. And so, at 17, I was already working 2 jobs, and, I'd close up the coffee house at night and go train in the gym as my second training. I really wanted to achieve the things that I had in my mind. But
where did that come from, by the way? Like I've got a 16-year-old. You've got probably a daughter that's close to that age if she's in high school.
Yeah. Yeah, she's about to turn 16 too, so I'm right there with you. Mm-hmm.
But my son is an incredible athlete, and I'm not sure his work ethic has caught up to his talent yet. Which we may have an episode on that later. But
that's pretty common
for you to do what you did, and to have 2 jobs, spend time training. Like, where did that desire to get to the next level come from for you?
Well, I do understand that, part of it was in my mind, it was my only way out. So I grew up in a home that was pretty, my mom was very loving and encouraging, but my dad was pretty violent, and I was the middle child. So I was, middle of 5 kids, and I just couldn't, there was no way I could ever please him or make him happy. And you name the award or accolade, I got it. Spelling bee champ, class president, honor roll student, winner of a talent show. I mean, I did everything that I possibly could just to prove myself. So I think part of it was that. Part of it was this great deep need to want to be seen and to be loved. And I think losing my mom at such a young age, like going through such hardship that was very isolating. I mean, I didn't have friends that worked. Girls didn't work 2 jobs and train the way I did. Like, that was very isolating for me. But in my mind, in starting, I think when I was in elementary school, I would tell my mom, like, I want to go to the Olympics. Like, I want to be a professional athlete. And I just had this like deep drive in me. And I had on one shoulder, someone saying that I just was not good enough, that I was junk and, wasn't going to amount to anything. And then someone that always said, I really believe you can do anything. And so I really struggled with finding that balance of what to believe and what to, really how to really see myself. And so, but then also my parents were hard workers. I think that, if they're even within all the hardship and the pain in my home, there was a lot of good that came out of the struggle. And I learned that if you want anything, it's never this idea of hard work pays off, however you want to say it, that will never go away.
Yeah.
I really believe that as humans, we were made to create, we were made to work. We're supposed to put our hand to the plow because that's where great things happen. That will never change as much as I don't care how far in advanced technology gets. But when you put your hand to the plow and you put in that work, it's both rewarding. It encourages you to keep going.
Totally agree.
And so I really understood that. My dad was a hustler. So is my mom. And that was the home that I grew up in. So I watched that and that kind of. Mm-hmm.
You had this moment, Sally, where I read about where you made a choice. And correct me here, but you made a choice to not pursue right after high school. You took a pause from school, quit school. I mean, you stopped pursuing that to be able to take care of your family and almost maybe fill a role that your mom was playing after she passed when you were 17, until somebody said, hey, like, and this totally speaks to what you just shared about your mom. This is not what your mom would have wanted, and kind of help wake you up to, there is more out there for you. Can you talk about that moment?
Yeah. So it was the end of my junior year in high school. And, so that was, that's a really important year, I think, for athletes that are wanting to go and play in college. Like, your junior, senior year is like huge. Like, it's when they're really starting to get noticed and communicating. And, that's when a lot of people are making decisions. And so for me, I had decided, I quit my club team. I was in a really great soccer club team. I quit the club team And I had decided to get my GED, which is just, you can take your general education diploma test and then you can stop going to high school. And so that's what I had decided to do. I was like, I'm going to take care of my siblings, and things were pretty intense at home. And so I was always really worried about them. I was just worried about a lot of things going on in my life. My dad also had 6 weeks after my mom died, had gotten this massive, very rare brain tumor. So he was incredibly sick as well. So in my mind, it was a choice out of deep bitterness. Like I had a lot of bitterness because in my heart, what I felt like was like, I'm so good. Like I've worked so hard. I don't do drugs. Like I'm not promiscuous. I'm not drinking. I get straight A's. Like I'm a good daughter. I'm a good sister. Like I'm working 2 jobs, and this is what I get. Like I get my mom taken away from me and I'm left with an abusive dad. And I just was so angry about that. And I was like, why even go after my dreams? I worked so hard all these years, and now everything is being taken away from me. I have no support and I just feel like I'm drowning. And so that's where I had made that decision. I didn't go through with it because of this family friend. This family friend was like, that is like the most devastating thing that you could do. And she literally took me by the hand to just local universities, which all of them, I was like, I've never even heard of these schools. Like, why would I want to play here? And I was really cynical and just pretty negative about it. But when I walked on to the campus at Biola University, the coach there was like, hey, some of us, we know who you are. And there's girls on our team that are willing to give up part of their scholarship if you'll come and play for us. And I just thought that moment was very pivotal for me, because I thought, who does that? I mean, who gives up what they work so hard for, so to give money to essentially a stranger?
It's such a fascinating, incredible story, and I want to connect the dot with one other quote that you read, and to hear you share about it, it makes so much sense, because I'm not sure there's a time in our life where we feel like our identity is being formed more so than we're right at that 17-year-old.
Oh, totally.
And you said something that I read that marked me, and it's you said, I loved how soccer, which I thought was a part of my identity, but was just a tool to something greater, which was being able to communicate with people. And as you talked about what you just shared, that whole time in your life, I can connect back to that, right? Where you thought these things, your mom, and certainly in some ways that was becoming a part of your identity, but what it was telling you about yourself, and that, I had trained for all of this, and these, why did the age-old question, right? I mean, why do bad things happen to good people? I mean, those kinds of things felt like it was shaping you when it was really a tool for something greater, some immature version of what would come.
Absolutely. I think that is, when I started going to Biola and I did start playing soccer there, my heart was in a completely different place when it came to soccer. I mean, I definitely did not have the same passion or zeal. When I played, I was pretty good. I helped lead the team to into a playoff that they had never done in school history. I was their top scorer on the team, but in my heart, the dreams that I had for myself as an athlete totally died. And I was left, especially that first year, I was sad. I mean, I was crying all the time. And at this point, my sisters had been taken away from my dad. They were put in foster care. And
there's the connection to your heart with foster care. Very cool.
So I think at that point, I started traveling. So like in the summers, I didn't want to go home and I didn't want to be at home. So I tried everything I could to not be at home. I didn't want to be around my dad. So I worked like 60 hours a week. And then if I wasn't working, then I would raise money to go on these missions trips. And so my first year I went to Ukraine and I lived in an orphanage, and that essentially it changed my whole life, because from the time I was little, like Annie was my favorite movie. If you guys are familiar with Annie, it's about a little girl that lives in an orphanage. But for whatever reason, when I was really little, I was so fascinated with this idea that children are forgotten, that children aren't in homes, and that they are sad and left to kind of fend for themselves, and they're not really seen, they're not really known, and they're very independent. And so many things that we just don't understand about orphanages and foster care, what that life is like. But I was so drawn to that. And my mom had a really big heart for people that are forgotten. And so
and they need
that
a voice.
kind of transferred over.
They need a voice.
Exactly. So when I left in that first year, so now it had been like a year and a half since my mom had died, I was really lost. Like I knew I'd spent my whole life as an athlete. That's what I was known for. That was where my dreams were going. I didn't really, even in college, I was like, I'm not really sure what I'm majoring in. Like, my life is so broken. I didn't have any girlfriends that related to me. Like, nobody came from the home that I was from. And most people didn't know my whole story. Like, I didn't want to share it with them, because you
vulnerable.
open up a textbook, you know, people with my story, it's like, oh dude, like they're jacked up, or like you want to walk in eggshells around that person, or like, and I just didn't want to be put in a box. I really pushed against that. But when I traveled to Ukraine, I remember when the kids would go down for their nap time, I would just go out and run. And I'd run around the city. And I remember at one point I stopped, and there was a soccer game going on in the city. And it was just a pickup game. And I jumped into it. And I realized like how powerful it was. Like, I didn't know much Ukrainian. I knew little words and phrases here and there, but like I was able to communicate with people through soccer. And then what happened was, every year after that, I always went on trips, and the trips to some degrees always involved soccer. And I realized that sport, as much as people are fanatical about sport, baseball, football, all of that, I realized that it's a very powerful connecting point for humans, because you know, you get into a stadium with people and you're sitting with people on your team, suddenly they're all your friends. And if your team scores, like everyone's hugging each other and they're just like buddies talking about the game. And it's like, you have this very interesting, unique way to get into somebody's, to look into somebody's eyes and have a conversation. And so that, for those 4 years in college, my view of sports completely changed, and my passion and this motivation that I had to be a professional athlete totally faded away. And so, you know, after I graduated from college, and I'll kind of like pause there, that is, you know, a lot of transitions just took place in my heart, really.
Well, we're gonna unpack that even more, and certainly as you shared that last part, it made me think Ted Lasso has really helped us all, right? Connect with sports in a very special
I love
way.
Ted Lasso.
And he was a recent goat that we shared.
He
In
was a
fact, and
recent
so maybe that takes us to would love, one of the ways that we honor our guests, Sally, is we ask them to define, give us their definition of a goat. So maybe you can do that for us, and then share who your goat, person, place, thing. Maybe it's a moment. We've had those on the show before, but define goat for us, and then share yours, please.
Yeah, you know, I think goat is a pretty powerful term, and you know, we see it a lot, especially in social media. People even use that little goat emoji, right?
Oh yeah.
And I do a lot of public speaking, and recently I was waiting to be introduced. So the host was, you know, on the microphone, and he was going through introductions about me. And one of the last things he said was, you know, this is the GOAT, Sally McRae. And
Wow.
for whatever reason, it just didn't sit right with me. And I thought about that for a minute as I was walking up, and I actually tied it into my entire talk. And I ended the talk by saying, you know, we don't need to be the greatest of all time, but you need to be great at who you are. And I think that is one of the hardest things for humans, is to look in the mirror and see the greatness that is in them, and to realize that, you know, you don't need a million followers. You don't need to have 20 medals, or you don't need to be an Olympian or have your own record deal to be great. You're great because you're walking on this planet. And that is just such a gift. And I think that when we see that, there is purpose for every life, when we understand that we are all made in such a unique way with very unique gifts and very specific stories, because they're all part of this big puzzle piece. And, one of the things I had said in that talk was like, I love traveling, especially to Europe, and going to those big, beautiful churches, the ones that sit up on hills with, the gorgeous, glass windows. And what are those glass windows called? And I'm totally forgetting it right now. But the broken glass is put together. So I was just saying how, all of us, stained glass, stained glass windows. So stained glass windows, I think, is just such a beautiful metaphor to a goat. I think that when we understand that we are part of a bigger picture, when we're part of something beautiful, and that we all have a piece and a place, and when light shines through that, it's amazing. And when a stained glass window is missing a piece, it stands out. You really see that. But when it's put together and light hits it, it's just the most beautiful thing. And so, for me, being a goat is really just being the best at who I am, putting my hand to the plow each day and staying focused on my one unique goal, because no one else can be me and no one else can fulfill what I'm supposed to fulfill. And I think that's pretty great.
That is special. My 4-year-old daughter the other day asked me if my heart was broken. And I said no. And she said, well, how is my love going to get in?
Oh my God.
That's what she said. Who says
I don't
that?
know. I don't know.
Okay, that is just a grand message.
I mean, that's
it reminded me of the broken glass stained window, right? It's so much beautiful after it's broken.
It's a children's book.
It's amazing.
It is.
Right
it
there.
is. That is right there. When my son was 3, he was sitting on the counter. I was trying to put a Band-Aid on a scraped knee, and he's like, "Mom, you can't cover that up." And I was like, "Why not? We need to put a Band-Aid." He's like, you can't cover it up, or else God can't heal it.
Love it.
And I was like,
That's awesome.
Oh wow, that is real. That's super powerful. I started like tearing up like right then and there. I was like,
So
isn't that
cool.
what every like adult does though? We cover it all up.
That's right. Out of the
And,
mouth of babes. All right,
yes.
Sally. So here's your shot. You get to, we share a goat every episode. You have the honors today. Who is your goat?
Mine's pretty simple. Not a lot of people know her, but my goat is definitely my mom. She's a wonderful woman, Diane Francis. She has been a source of strength to me at many, many points in my life. So, yeah.
Well,
Awesome.
Here's to Diane.
Well, thank you.
That's awesome.
Well, the thing we know
Yeah.
about Diane is that she did 3 things for you. She made you the middle child. She taught you how to put your hand on the plow, and she taught you how to work. And to me, when I listen, what a great way to explain to everyone else what it means to be a goat, to put your hand on the plow and go to work every day. We're going to put a pause right there and pick it right back up here in just a second. There's so much to unpack in the second episode with Sally and Tyler, who is here with us today, and John. I'm Colby Jubenville, and this is the Go Consulting Podcast.
Boom.